My grandson's fiancée kept glancing at the locked door in my study. Third time this evening. I watched her from across the living room, champagne glass paused halfway to her lips, her eyes tracking to that corner like a compass, finding north. David didn't notice. He was too busy showing her parents the view from my penthouse terrace, gesturing at the San Francisco skyline like a proud tour guide. 28 years old, brilliant software architect, and hopelessly, dangerously in love. Mr. Castellano, Melissa said, floating over with that smile that never quite reached her eyes. David mentioned you have a home office. I'd love to see where the magic happens. The magic. That's what David called it when he was 10, and I'd let him sit in my leather chair, watching me work. Back then, the magic was building the security infrastructure that now protected half of Silicon Valley's most valuable data. Now, at 72, the magic was mostly consulting and collecting the dividends from 30 years of patents. It's just a room with a computer, I said. Oh, I'm sure it's more than that. Her hand touched my arm. Light, calculated. David says you still have servers in there. That's so vintage. Vintage. The word hung in the air like an insult wrapped in a compliment. I'd been a widower for 8 years. Raised David myself, after his parents died in that car accident when he was 19. Paid for MIT, watched him graduate top of his class, saw him build his own startup, sell it for $40 million at 26, then start another one. The kid was brilliant, just like his father had been. But Melissa, there was something off. Had been since David brought her home 6 months ago. Dad, David called from the terrace. He still called me that, even though technically I was his grandfather. Come tell them about the 99 crash. They don't believe I'm not exaggerating. I excused myself from Melissa and joined them. But I felt her eyes on that door for the rest of the evening. The second red flag came 2 weeks later. David had left his laptop open on my kitchen counter. He'd been staying with me more often lately, claiming my place was closer to the office, though I suspected he was avoiding something at the home he shared with Melissa in Pacific Heights. I wasn't snooping. The screen lit up when I walked past, and there was an email open. From Melissa Chen to David Castellano. Subject: Life insurance policy. Babe, did you remember to add me as beneficiary like we discussed? I know it's morbid, but my mom brought it up, and it got me thinking about how we need to protect each other. Also, your grandfather's estate planning. Have you talked to him about the family trust structure? We should probably get ahead of this before the wedding. My jaw tightened. The wedding was 8 months away, and she was already talking about beneficiaries and trust structures. I closed the laptop carefully. That night, I called Marcus Webb, my attorney, for 35 years. Marcus, I need you to review David's financial situation, quietly, and I need a background check on someone named Melissa Chen, the fiancée. Yeah. Marcus didn't ask questions. He'd been handling sensitive matters for me since before I made my first million. I'll have something by Friday. Friday came with a manila folder, and Marcus's grim expression. She's clean, he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. No criminal record, no debt, good credit. Parents are dentists in Sacramento. She works as a marketing consultant, makes decent money. But she's only been working there for 8 months. Before that, there's a gap of 2 years. And before that gap, she was engaged to someone else. I leaned forward. Who? Thomas Brennan, 78 years old, widower, founder of Brennan Medical Devices. They got engaged after dating for 4 months. The engagement lasted 6 weeks before his daughter intervened and had him evaluated by a psychiatrist. Turns out Melissa had been isolating him, convincing him his family didn't care about him, positioning herself to be added to his will. My blood ran cold. The daughter threatened legal action. Melissa disappeared. No lawsuit, no charges, just vanished. Popped up in San Francisco a year later with a new job and a new look, blonde instead of brunette. Lost about 30 pounds based on the photos. He slid a picture across the desk. Same eyes, different everything else. Does David know? I doubt it. She's good at this, William. Very good. The Brennan daughter said Melissa had this way of making her father feel young again, relevant. She'd ask his advice on everything, defer to his judgment, make him feel like a king. Exactly what she was doing with David. "What's the play?" Marcus asked. I stared at the photo for a long moment. I need proof. Something concrete that David won't be able to deny. "You could just show him this." "He's in love, Marcus. He'll rationalize it. Tell me she's changed, or that it's a misunderstanding, or that I'm paranoid. I need something he can't explain away." Marcus nodded slowly. "There's a private investigator I've used before. Former FBI. Discreet. Do it." The investigator's name was Sarah Chen. No relation to Melissa, she'd assured me with dark humor. She was 50, sharp-eyed, and had the kind of patient demeanor that suggested she'd seen every variation of human duplicity. "I'll need 3 weeks minimum," she said. "Maybe 4. I can't rush this without being noticed. The engagement party is in 6 weeks. Then I'll have something by then." I authorized whatever she needed. Money wasn't the concern. David was. I watched him over the next few weeks, seeing things I'd missed before. The way Melissa steered conversations, how she'd mention, casually, that I seemed to be forgetting things, small things, where I'd left my glasses, what day it was. Had I told them this story before? David would laugh it off, but I saw the seed being planted. The gentle suggestion that maybe Grandpa was getting old. Slipping a little, I was 72, not senile. I ran 5 miles every morning and could still write code that would make junior developers weep. 4 weeks before the party, David came to me with a strange request. "Melissa thinks we should talk about. I don't know how to say this without it sounding bad. Just say it. About what happens if something happens to you." He couldn't meet my eyes. "She mentioned that we should have a plan for your care, if you ever need it. She's been reading about elder law and conservatorships and..." "Conservatorships?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "Not like that. She just wants to make sure you're protected. That if you ever got sick, there'd be a plan in place so you wouldn't have to worry about decisions." "David, I'm 72. I'm not incapacitated." I know. She's just thinking ahead. You know how she is. Always planning. Always organized. Always planning to control my assets. More like..." "Let me think about it," I said. That night, Sarah called. "I've got something. You're going to want to see this in person." We met at a coffee shop in Berkeley. She slid a tablet across the table. "She's been busy," Sarah said. "There's a guy, investment advisor named Marcus Chen." "Another Chen?" "Cousin." I verified it. They've been meeting twice a week at a hotel in Oakland. I've got photos, but it's not an affair. They're planning something. She pulled up a series of photos. Melissa and a man in his 30s spread sheets and documents across a hotel room desk. I managed to get audio from their last meeting. Took me 2 weeks to plant the device. She handed me earbuds. "Listen to timestamp 1843. I did. Melissa's voice, tinny but clear, convinced David that William's showing signs. Little memory lapses, confusion about dates. Once we're married, we start documenting everything. Get him evaluated. "Marcus, you know the process better than I do." Marcus Chen's voice. "California conservatorship law requires proof of incapacity. You'll need medical evidence, testimony from people who've witnessed the decline. I've been working on David's former colleagues. Planting stories about how William seemed confused at dinner, asked the same question twice. David's already concerned. Good. Once you have conservatorship, you'll have control of the estate. We're talking about, what, 60 million in assets? Conservative estimate. Could be closer to 80 with the patents. David inherits everything, and as his wife, I'll have significant influence. If William's judged incapacitated, David will defer to me on medical decisions, living arrangements, everything." My hands were shaking. I set the earbuds down. "There's more," Sarah said quietly. "She's been researching memory care facilities, expensive ones, the kind where families visit once a month and feel like they're doing their duty. She wants to lock me away. Yes, and drain the estate through medical expenses and care costs, while she and cousin Marcus skim whatever they can before David notices. If he ever notices." I closed my eyes. David, my grandson, my son, the kid I'd raised from grief and loss into a good man, a brilliant man, who couldn't see what was right in front of him because he was blinded by what he thought was love. "What's the time frame?" I asked. Based on their conversations, they're waiting until after the wedding. Give it 6 months, maybe a year, to establish legitimacy. Then they'll start the process. Slowly enough that David doesn't suspect they're manipulating him. The engagement party is in 2 weeks. Sarah nodded. Then you need to decide how you want to play this. Quietly or not quietly, I said. I want David to see exactly who she is. The next week was a blur of preparation. Marcus Webb drew up documents. Sarah compiled evidence. And I rehearsed what I needed to say about 1,000 times. The engagement party was at my penthouse. Melissa's idea, of course. It would mean so much to David to celebrate in the place he grew up, she'd said. 100 guests, David's friends from MIT and his startup. Melissa's carefully curated circle of marketing executives and influencers. Her parents, who seemed like perfectly nice people who had no idea what their daughter was capable of. I played the gracious host. Let Melissa organize everything. Watched her work the room, positioning herself as the beloved future bride, the woman who'd brought joy back into David's life after his startup stress, the one who cared so deeply for his poor aging grandfather. David gave a toast at 8 p.m. To the 2 people I love most in the world, my grandfather, who taught me everything that matters, and Melissa, who showed me what it means to build a future with someone. Melissa beamed, kissed him. The room applauded. I caught her eye. She smiled at me, warm and genuine looking. At 8:30, I took the microphone. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "David, I need to speak with you privately for a moment. It's important." His smile faltered. "Dad? Now?" "Now." Melissa's hand tightened on his arm. "William, maybe after." "No, now. Just David." The room went quiet. You could feel the awkwardness spreading like a stain. David followed me to my study. I closed the door. "What's going on?" he asked. I handed him the tablet. "Watch this. All of it. Don't skip anything." "Dad, please." He sat down, pressed play. I watched his face as he listened to Melissa and Marcus planning, watched the confusion, the disbelief, then the slowly dawning horror as he heard her voice, crystal clear, discussing conservatorships and memory care facilities and how to document my decline. When it finished, he just sat there. "The woman she's talking about," I said quietly. "Thomas Brennan's daughter. I contacted her. She's here tonight, waiting in the guest room. If you want to hear her story, this can't be real. David, look at me." He did. His eyes were wet. "I had her investigated because something felt wrong. I'm sorry I didn't trust your judgment, but I'm not sorry I protected you, or myself." He played the audio again, then a third time. Finally, he stood. "I need to talk to her." "No, not yet. There's something else you need to know." I showed him the financial documents Sarah had uncovered, the cousin's investment scheme, the research on estate planning and trust structures, the timeline they'd laid out. "She was going to wait," I said. "Marry you, get settled, then convince you I was incompetent. And you would have believed it, David, because she's been so careful, so patient. You would have thought you were protecting me." He sat back down heavily. "What do I do?" "That's your choice. But you need to make it now. Everyone's waiting." He stared at the floor for what felt like hours. Then he stood, straightened his shoulders, and walked to the door. "Stay here," he said. I heard him cross the living room, heard the conversations die down, then his voice, steady and cold. "Melissa, I need you to leave." "What?" "David, what are you?" "I know about Marcus. I know about Thomas Brennan. I know everything." The silence was absolute. "That's insane. Who's been filling your head with?" "My grandfather has been trying to protect me from you." "And he was right." "David, please, let's talk about this privately." "No. You wanted a party. You wanted an audience. You've got one. Tell everyone here about your plan, about the conservatorship, about the memory care facility." I heard something shatter. A glass, maybe. "You're being manipulated by a paranoid old man who—" I heard the recordings, Melissa. I heard every word. You talking to your cousin about how to steal my grandfather's estate, how to convince me he was losing his mind, how much everything was worth. That's taken out of context. Then provide the context. Please. Explain to all these people how discussing conservatorship fraud is somehow innocent. More silence. Then I heard footsteps. Running. The elevator doors opening and closing. I stepped out of my study. David was standing in the middle of the room, surrounded by shocked guests. His hands were shaking. "Party's over," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to everyone." People started leaving. Quickly. Quietly. The kind of exit you make when you've witnessed something private and painful. Melissa's parents stopped by David. Her mother was crying. "We didn't know," she said. "I swear to God, we didn't know." "I believe you," David said. They left too. Within 20 minutes, the penthouse was empty, except for David, me, Marcus Webb, and Sarah Chen. David looked at me. "How long have you known?" 6 weeks. "Why didn't you tell me immediately?" "Because you loved her. Because you wouldn't have believed me. Because I needed you to see the proof yourself." He nodded slowly. Then he walked to the terrace and stood there, staring at the city lights. I gave him space. Sarah packed up her equipment. Marcus made some calls. To the DA's office, to colleagues who specialized in fraud cases. It turned out what Melissa had done wasn't just morally repugnant. Parts of it crossed into criminal conspiracy. Around midnight, David came back inside. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" "For not seeing it. For not listening to my instincts. There were moments when something felt off, but He shrugged, helplessly. "I wanted it to be real. I know. She made me feel like I wasn't just the tech guy, you know? Like I was interesting beyond the code. Like I mattered in a way that had nothing to do with money or success. You do matter, David. You always have. To you, because you raised me. But to someone who chose me." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out, she didn't choose me at all. She chose the inheritance." We sat in silence for a while. "What happens now?" he asked. "Marcus is filing a report with the DA. Melissa's cousin will probably face charges. She might too, depending on what they find. And me? You heal. You learn. You move forward. That's it. That's everything." 3 weeks later, I got a letter. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting from the documents Sarah had collected. "Mr. Castellano, I won't insult you by claiming this was a misunderstanding, or by asking for forgiveness. You were right about everything. I've been doing this for 6 years. Finding successful men, making them need me, positioning myself to benefit when they're vulnerable. Thomas Brennan was supposed to be my retirement plan, but his daughter was smarter than I gave her credit for. David was supposed to be my second chance. I'm not writing to apologize. I'm writing because you should know that David never stopped defending you. Even when I was planting doubts, even when I was building my case, he would shut down anyone who suggested you were anything less than brilliant. That's how I knew I was running out of time. He loves you, more than I've ever seen anyone love someone who isn't blood. More than you probably realize. You raised him right. I'm leaving California, probably leaving this whole life. I don't know yet. Tell David I'm sorry isn't enough, so I won't bother. Just tell him he deserves better. He always did. M." I showed the letter to David. He read it twice, then handed it back to me. "Do you think she means it?" he asked. "Does it matter?" "No," he said. "I guess it doesn't." 6 months later, David met someone new. A woman named Rachel, who worked in environmental policy and had never heard of me, didn't know about the patents or the money, and argued with David about climate legislation over dinner like he was just another person with opinions. I liked her immediately. At their 1-year anniversary dinner, David pulled me aside. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For trusting your instincts, even when I didn't. For protecting me even when I didn't want to be protected. That's what family does." "Yeah," he said. "That's exactly what family does." I'm 73 now. Still running my 5 miles. Still writing code that makes junior developers weep. Still watching over my grandson, who's building his 3rd startup, and planning his wedding to a woman who argues with him, and challenges him, and loves him, for reasons that have nothing to do with what's in my will. Sometimes late at night, I think about Melissa. Wonder where she is. if she's running the same game on someone else, if she ever thinks about how close she came. Mostly, though, I think about that moment in my study when David looked at the evidence and chose truth over comfort, when he walked out into that party and called her out in front of everyone, even though it cost him the relationship he thought he wanted. That's when I knew he'd be okay. Some people talk about love being blind, but real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that matters, has its eyes wide open. David learned that the hard way, but he learned it in time, and that's all that matters.